All right, my friends, today we're going to talk about the incredible transformation of powerlifter George Hechter and several other power as well. Now, it's well known that bulking up to get stronger is not a new thing. It's been around forever. Paul Anderson and his Canadian counterpart, Doug Hepburn, that was part of their scheme to get bigger and stronger was just to pack on weight. Obviously, not all of it muscle. There's George. You see him on the left hand side there. He was like 360. Here he is in the World's Strongest Man in 85. He only went and won of these World's Strongest Man contests, placed kind of in the middle of the pack, which isn't bad considering it was not his forte. But I think he figured he was going to lose some weight after this. So this might be his best shot at doing something in the World's Strongest Man contest. Now, it's talking here about from an article from a 1987 Powerlifting USA article called The Incredible Transformation of George Hechter. He was the fourth man in history to total 2,400 pounds back in the 80s. Some pretty serious lifts. Now, this is just um, most of his lifting career shown here. And you can see I didn't put the first year or two, he was lighter, but he got to a certain point where he was at 275 plus, and he pretty much stayed there. And kind of the peak of that was in the 85, where at the Hawaii Invitational, he totaled 2369.9, but he did total 2400 at 360. Now here he is as a lighter guy in his early years, and you can see he looks pretty young here, but still big, still obviously he had a pretty good physique. Um, he's only a year younger than myself, oddly, uh, and he joined the super heavyweight class through dedicated bulking. His way of bulking was to use GoMad times three. GoMad is a gallon of milk a day. He drank like 3 gallons of milk a day plus whatever else he was eating. So that's a pretty good way to bulk up. Now here he is when he cut down, which was 2 years after he set that 2,400 total record, and still came back and was setting records as a 242er. So he was strong at both weights. Interestingly, both him and Kuc, who we're also going to talk about next, when they cut down from well over 300 to 242, their deadlifts both went up just a smidge, like 5 pounds, which is interesting. And I found that to be true with my own lifting. There's Kuc. Um, doesn't look like he's quite as his heaviest there, but he went to well over 300. He was in the video I did about Jim Williams, of course, because they were training partners. They trained together in Scranton. And one of Kuc's motivations that spoke here was to improve his squatting leverages. And in 18 months, he went from 242 to 330, so he didn't go quite as heavy as Hechter did. Um, but that's and then when he lost the weight, and he came back and totaled 2,200 as a 242, which was a world record at the time. There's George, a little more bulked up and a little older, obviously. Not the clearest picture, sorry about that. But you can see he's got some bar bending serious weight on there. Another guy who bulked up was Hugh Cassidy. He was another great lifter, and he was in the early 70s, became the first guy one of the first to do a three lift total of 2160. And again, that's without all the accoutrement that they had later on with the crazy lifting suits and wraps and so forth. That was pretty much raw. And he bulked up by eating like a sumo, just eating anything and everything and all the time, and 5,000 calories a day plus. There you can see, that's just looks like a lifting singlet. He may have a belt. There's no knee wraps or anything. And look how low he is. And that's squatting some serious weight. Another gentleman was George Leeman. who became a really good deadlifter, and he bulked up to even more than the other guys. I think it said 385. That 909 was a deadlift record, so it did help his deadlift. And then he also did some serious squatting weight too. Um, so this was the beginning of that article called Four Powerlifters Who Went on These Epic Bulks, glorious bulking. But most of them decided to cut down at some point. There's George as an older guy with probably the best power lifter in history, that'd be Mr. Eddie Cohn. And apparently they were friends. Now, I couldn't find a routine for George, unfortunately, but I did find some tidbits on his training. And one little interesting thing that he did was he did a lot of power cleans and clean high pulls. And I think he did have an Olympic background, which kind of focused on that. Interestingly, high school football guys like to use power cleans too, almost as opposed to the deadlift, because they felt like the deadlift was more dangerous, though they're okay with squatting, which to me, squatting is more dangerous. But there's the Powerlifting USA article from November of '87, and you could certainly see he has the look of power there. I saw him at a meet back in the '80s because that was kind of my lifting heyday, and when he was in that cut down situation, and he was still huge. So thanks for watching. I'm going to stop there and thank all those who have subscribed recently, and I'm out.